recognized that there was a need, that there are certain kids falling through the cracks, certain kids that just don't have positive, meaningful relationships with adults that care about them, and that's a need that we wanted to fill. And so we found some adults that care about kids and want to hang out and build relationships with the kids who need that kind of an influence in their life. And we created an environment that kids want to hang out in and where that can happen.
Everyone here was so welcoming, didn't judge or anything, didn't try and say, oh, well, you're into this or you're into that, you can't come to God. It wasn't like that at all.
When I came here, it was something I look forward to at the end of the week. And to see, Bobby, Vince, and Mr. MJ. It was just good. I mean, it was a family experience.
I learned that it's not so bad to open up because somebody's always there to listen, and most of my life no one's ever really listened to me, and then when people would say they were there for me, they would just insult me at how I felt. So when I made friends here and got close to the volunteers, felt like I actually did have somebody there for me. So felt like I made real friends.
Our first kind of goal is to just build a relationship, to have genuine friendships, like we genuinely care about these kids, and we want to help them with their life so they can be successful. God comes into play, and God is the heart behind all of this. It's the reason that we're doing this. It's the reason we care about these kids.
I got to know the Lord when I was 25, which was a little later in life, and I went through a lot of garbage that I wish that I didn't have to go through. And so I see this as an opportunity to introduce the young people to God and let them know that there's hope, that they don't have to go through all the garbage I went through.
Start over. Start over.
One of the really neat things about our organization is that our board and our volunteers are represented by many different churches in the Red Line, Dallastown area. Our board members come from different churches, our volunteers come from different churches, and what we really want to do is partner with churches who are interested in drawing teens into their church who don't have a church background.
I'm constantly hearing about programming. How do we get kids in? How do we get kids in? And I believe what we're doing is offering a place to be missional in a community where you don't have to think about getting kids in, but you can plug in and get outside the walls of your church.
We're not targeting people who are already attending church and kids that are already involved in youth groups with their families and doing really well. Our mentors are targeting kids who've never been to church, who come from families that aren't involved in the community so much. And their goal is to build those relationships and get them plugged into the church where they come from.
I was getting pretty heavily into drugs as a teenager, and there was a family that reached out to me through just a small group in their house in the neighborhood that I lived in when I moved up here. And it was kind of like the same thing we're trying to do here. We developed a relationship. Basically I call them, they're like my parents.
Bobby invited me and some other people down to a place called Holy Chicken. It's somewhere in New York City, and we were put on the spot. The leader there asked, if you're not right with God, raise your hand. So
basically just said everything that I've been doing and why I'm not right with God, and kind of had a breakdown in front of everybody.
And they all laid hands on me and started praying for me and encouraging me, and I asked Jesus into my heart.
Then they had this jacuzzi that they carry around with them, filled it up with freezing cold water, jumped in there, got baptized, and kind of, I guess, where it all began.
I don't know, I wasn't really close to anybody even before she came. Like I would go back and forth, but I never really connected with anybody until I met her. So yeah, we both grew together, I think.
When I was 14, I was going through a lot of problems in my life. I was overweight. I was having a lot of trouble with self-esteem and that kind of stuff. But I definitely became really good friends with the staff right away. They definitely talked to me about, how I was doing in school, how my friends were doing, all that kind of stuff, like my hobbies and everything like that. So they definitely care about the community, and they're definitely interested in seeing kids of the Red Line go far and do good things.
I decided to go to the church strictly trying to become a volunteer. I wasn't, focused mostly on God, but after time, talking with Vince and Josh and Bobby, I started becoming more interested, started caring a lot more, and suddenly me going to church was hardly even about becoming a volunteer anymore. It was just about becoming closer with God. And I feel like I probably wouldn't have gotten as far as I am, or even where I am now, if it hadn't been for me coming to the youth center to begin with.
One of the main reasons why I like being here as a mentor and being a part of 18 South is getting to hear kids' stories. That's kind of the crux. That's like my big thing is stories. What's not necessarily sharing my story with the kids, and I hope that I get the chance to do that and tell them how I fell in love with Jesus and stuff like that. But I found that the most important part of being a mentor here is hearing their stories. And a lot of the time, I think that I might be the first one.
You don't have to be afraid, you don't have to be alone. You can step over there, he's on the way home.
Churches that have adults in their 20s and 30s that want to come volunteer and get involved. This is kind of like a fishing pond. You send them over, they build relationships with the teens, they bring the teens back to get involved in the church, where then they can be discipled, they can be involved in the youth groups and involved in the church programs there. So we really want to see the teens benefit, the community benefit, and of course all the churches benefit from this as well.